Chapter 231, PL 1975. The adequate notice of this regular meeting as required by the Open Public Meetings Act was provided by the posting, mailing, delivery, and filing of this notice on November 20, 2020. This notice was on that date posted on the bulletin board in the Township office, sent to the Courier News, the Echo Sentinel, and Tap into Warren, and filed with the Township Clerk of the Township of Warren, all in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. Please all rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Ambercar?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Balish?
Present.
Mr. Bishi?
Here.
Mr. Brzee?
Here.
Mrs. DiMaggio? Mr. Franco?
Here.
Mrs. Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Zahn?
Here.
And Mr. Bellman.
Here.
We have a quorum and may proceed.
Resolved that the Board of Education approves the public and private session minutes for the November 16th, 2020 board meeting.
Second, Bellman.
Ms. Ambercar?
Yes.
Mr. Balish?
Yes.
Mr. Bishi?
Yes.
Mr. Brzee?
Yes.
Is Mrs. DiMaggio on the line?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Zahn?
Yes.
And Mr. Bellman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Correspondence and information. Dr. Mingle, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bellman. There was one HIB investigation since our last meeting at Woodland School that was not determined to be an HIB incident. No other correspondence to report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mingle. President's remarks. Good evening and welcome to our Monday, December 14, 2020 meeting of the Warren School Board. This is the final meeting for the 2020 calendar year. And with that, also my last meeting as your board president and my term serving on the board. As I reflect on my time in this capacity, I'm humbled by the hard work of all those in this Warren School District. I am proud to have been part of this team and to have worked together with all of you. Thus, it could not have been more fitting that in my last and one of my favorite official duties as board president, I was able to join Dr. Mingle in congratulating and recognizing the recipients of the Excellence in Education Awards. Despite masks, I could see each teacher smile with their eyes and truly shine brighter as they accepted their awards. I will allow Dr. Mingle to elaborate on the details and recipients of these awards in a few minutes. Additionally, I would like to recap some of the highlights and achievements of this current board, which in fact encompass far more than diligently working to be one of the very few school boards to secure a safe and remarkable return to school during a pandemic. Our finance committee was able to pass and maintain a solid budget over the course of the past years, with a 0% increase this year in a concerted effort to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on our residents. Our board participated in and promoted the successful referendum to receive funds from Trenton for improvements in our Warren schools. Strategic planning committees were formed with important stakeholders, teachers, administrators, parents, community members, and even students to assess and address the challenges and opportunities for our schools. This culminated in the creation of our new long-term strategic plan. Our board was able to successfully negotiate a fair contract with the teachers, despite unprecedented circumstances. Before I turn the floor over to Dr. Mingle, let me again thank the entire board for the countless hours. At times difficult and always hard work, they have given to this role in our community. In particular, I would like to recognize the two members who will conclude their service tonight, Mrs. Ayana Taylor and Mrs. Vaishali Ambakar. Ms. Taylor served on the Personal and Negotiations Committee, as well as the Curriculum, Communications, and Technology Committee. Her insight, compassion, and background as an educator were invaluable during these past years. Mrs. Ambakar's, albeit brief, term on the board brought a fresh perspective, and her commitment is noteworthy. And come January, the community will be fortunate to welcome 3 new members to the Board of Education: Ms. Laura Keller, Ms. Lori Clark, and Mr. Todd Weinstein. Let me be the first to congratulate you on your appointments. I had the pleasure of speaking to and welcoming all 3 individuals to this new role last week, and I'm confident that they will bring dedication, passion, and commitment to their roles. Thank you all for your support. I wish you and your families happy, healthy, and safe holidays. And with that, I'm passing over to Dr. Mingle for the superintendent's remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Bellman. I do have a few things to share this evening. I'd like to begin with a relatively brief video of some return to school updates for the community. Just give me 1 second to switch screens. Good evening. I would like to provide a brief update on the district's return to school status. As we know, our vision of returning to school has always been to safely return all students and staff members to the Warren Township schools. Our guiding principles have remained the same since the spring as we began our planning, prioritizing the health and safety of our students and staff members, encouraging physical distancing, discouraging student cohort mixing, encouraging and improving hygiene practices, and taking into consideration the impact on the mental health and wellness of our students, our staff, and the wider school community, and relying on the most up-to-date scientific data and professional recommendations so that we can make sure that our systems are matching information as we receive it. As always, our plans require us to respond to updated guidance, and we need to make adjustments from time to time. As we know, we reopened in September in hybrid 1.0. In October, we brought back additional students in grades K1 and 2, 5 days per week. And in November, we expanded our preschool program to its full operating status and brought back elementary school self-contained special education students 5 days a week. Several points of pride for the last 3 months. The accommodations we have in place, which include daily health checks, physical distancing, universal masking, enhanced cleaning protocols, enforcement of exclusion and isolation guidelines, hygiene breaks, fresh air ventilation, and single session days, exceed what is expected of us from the state of New Jersey and the CDC. And we know that these protocols are working because the number of total COVID-19 cases that have been reported to the district, 24, represent just 1% of our students and employees. And of those 24 cases, 23 of them have been definitively traced to a source outside of the district. One case may have been contracted from an in-district source, although that has not been confirmed by public health officials. It is only a possibility. There are other mitigating circumstances that will be difficult to isolate. In addition, we have quarantined 96 students and staff members due to being close contacts of an in-district case. Only one of those quarantined individuals showed symptoms that could be a positive case of COVID-19. Thanks to the efforts of our staff, our students are learning. 80% of our students are learning in school facilities right now. And our fall iReady data suggests that at worst, there is minimal learning loss from last year to this year during the school facility closure, but in several grade levels, there were actually significant learning gains, a credit to our staff for their work last spring and throughout the fall this year. And our return to school committee structure, which has been in place since before school facilities closed in March, continues to respond and make improvements as we get new guidelines, survey results, and more. Just as an update to provide accurate information to the community, we see that at most schools, at the elementary schools, we're seeing 80+% of our students in school facilities as of last week in the hybrid. And at the middle school, that has gone down a bit to 74%. Still, our numbers in the district overall at 80% far exceed the in-person learning going on in most places as our students and staff members continue to operate in the hybrid. I should note that these numbers include only what the official status is of a student. If there's a family that is pending a change in the future, or is out temporarily due to a travel quarantine or other kinds of quarantine that would not be reflected here, but we do only have a few people changing status as of January 4th, which is our next checkpoint. Wanted to remind the community that there are 3 different scenarios for how a school would close. The first scenario is that the Department of Health weekly update moves us into a red status, and that would be an automatic closure while we were in red status. It has always been the Department of Health's guidelines that if there are 2 or more cases within a 2-week time period that we can't link to a source outside the school setting, then there would be a recommendation for a short-term closure. This is the reason why Watchung Hills closed before Thanksgiving break, and the most common reason that we're seeing around our area. And finally, if there are so many staff members who are excluded or quarantined due to their own exposures or exposures related to the school district that we can't adequately supervise our students, we could have to make temporary closing decisions. This has been the case in several school districts in our area. Wanted to highlight the process that is used when we receive notification of a positive case. We approach every notification of a presumptive positive as if it is positive, and we report that out to the school community. At the superintendent level, that includes talking with our county health officials, our local health official, our county education officials, and making sure that our dashboard is updated as soon as possible on the same day. And at the building level, our principal, school nurse, sometimes a school counselor, work on contact tracing, excluding students who need to be excluded or staff members, and making sure that the information that can be shared is shared. I want to note that we've received some questions and concerns about information not being accessible. There are privacy requirements around medical information. We release as much as we are able to, but we will not be able to provide every parent or every student or every staff member with information about other people's medical situation. And just a couple other odds and ends. We are preparing for the possibility of a red or state determined closure, although that seems unlikely based on the current data and the current data trends, that we would be able to move into a full distance setting as seamlessly as possible with as little change as possible. We will communicate about that as soon as it happens, if it is to happen. Again, we don't expect that in the immediate future, but we are preparing for it just in case. Our work continues on preparing for the rest of hybrid 1.2, which would include a recommendation to bring back all 3rd grade students 5 days per week, and to bring back self-contained special education students in grades 6, 7, and 8, 5 days a week. We hope to have a proposal related to that ready to go as soon as conditions allow us to make that kind of a move. I implore you to continue reading our Thursday emails. They contain a great deal of information, very extensive updates on what's going on with all kinds of important resources. There is a database on the district COVID-19 website, so you can search by keyword for previous Thursday messages. And with that, I would also encourage you to participate in the surveys. We continue to try different methods to get participation, but we lag on a regular basis. Those surveys come out in the community briefing, and we try to keep them to under 5 minutes. So please do participate and read those messages. And finally, snow days. So I know everybody wants to hear about snow days, but I'd rather just talk about it than go from a video for that, especially with a snowstorm pending. So I shared with our staff last week and with the board's ad hoc committee that we intend to use snow days on days that we would use snow days, meaning that if there's a day where we're waking up and there's going to be 12 to 18 inches of snow, like the forecast calls for on Thursday, that would be a snow day like it is in any other circumstance. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some of them have to do with practical logistics, like power outages and the ability to actually deliver a full distance learning experience in the middle of a snowstorm. And some of them are just, it's good for kids and even for the adults in the school district to have a snow day every once in a while, take a break, go outside and play, have some time, relaxing and not stressing over making the technology work or whatever else. So this will be on a case-by-case basis. This is common among the K-8 districts in our area that all feed into Watchung Hills. That decision will be made in concert like it is every year. This week's situation is unique, as they all are, with every snow day potential. Based on the most recent forecasts, we're looking at whether or not we can get Wednesday in before the snow starts, even on our early dismissal schedule. Thursday looks like pretty much a snowstorm, the way that we expect it. And then when you have that much snow, there's always a question about the next day as well. Tomorrow morning around 9:30, there will be a letter going out to all staff and parents with information about snow days and about our planning for later this week, so that you know what the scenarios are, what the options are. We'll wait until tomorrow morning to go into into the details so that we have the most recent weather forecasts available. So we are allowed to use a mixture of distance learning if we close school facilities for snow this year and regular snow days. The one caveat I'll make is that if we get to a point where we've used up all of our snow days, we will then use full distance learning days from that point forward, because nobody wants us to take away spring break because we've used too many snow days, especially not in an environment where we could flip to distance learning. So all of that will be in writing tomorrow, so people have that information at their fingertips. But the headline from my perspective is there will be snow days. Seems like they will be coming sooner than we might have thought when I first meant to mention this tonight. Some other topics I wanted to point out on the agenda for item B7. Item B7 is New Jersey QSAC submittal approval. For those of you that aren't on sort of the district administration or board process with these sorts of things, New Jersey QSAC is a once every 3 years accountability process with the state of New Jersey Department of Education. It is extremely intense and comprehensive. And so I want to thank Mrs. Lenhart and Mr. Kimmick and Mr. Ressa and Ms. Regan, who were the key people putting together the many, many pages of data for the state. We will be meeting with them on Thursday of all days this week to have our once every 3 years review. And so it's quite a bit of work, especially in the environment we're working in right now on top of everything else. So thank you to those people for leading the efforts for that submission. And I did want to highlight as well B10 and B11, which are 2 donations, one from Mr. and Mrs. Brzee and one from the Watchung Hills Elks. Those 2 donations, when combined with other donations we received from the PTOs and from the Lions Club, provide us with the funding we need to be able to provide food service to families in need in place of their regular lunch and food days, all the way through the end of the 2020-2021 school year in June. So thank you for those donations, very helpful in us helping bring those families through the end of the school year. And on item C7, summer fun, with the appointment of a summer fun principal and assistant principal, that is one way of us signaling to the community that is our intention to run summer fun, traditional summer fun in person in the summer of 2021. Obviously, a lot has to happen between now and then, but we are working really hard right now on what safety procedures from the regular school year need to carry over into the summer to make summer fun happen with enrichment and academic support and ESY in person at ALT in the summer of 2021. And then finally, I'd like to echo Mr. Bellman and then expand on it a bit. Thank you to Ms. Ambercar, Ms. Taylor, and Mr. Bellman for your service to the Board of Education, to the community. A year of all years, of course, this year. Whenever there's a new president, we have a conversation. I said something like this to Mr. Brzee when he became president as well, of it's all right, things are going pretty smoothly. There's no major things on the horizon. And then, there's a once in a generation or more pandemic, Mr. Bellman. I apologize for that, but thank you for your leadership and partnership throughout this past year. Certainly has been a challenging one in a lot of ways, but also I appreciate your recap of our successes because there's a lot to celebrate as well. So thank you for all that, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mingle. Agenda item 8, presentations. With that, I'll jump in to make a motion. Warren Township Board of Education Resolution of Appreciation. Whereas Mrs. Vaishali Amberkar has served the children and community of Warren Township as a Board of Education member, rising to the occasion when the board had a vacancy. And whereas Mrs. Amberkar quickly embraced board membership, exhibiting her passion for public education immediately. And whereas Mrs. Amberkar has established in the teaching staff, parent community, and administrative team a reputation of trustworthiness, fairness, and commitment to the district's high standards. And whereas Mrs. Amberkar has served as a champion for excellence in all areas. Whereas Mrs. Amberkar has further supported the children of Warren through her commitment to the Warren Middle School PTO. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Warren Township Board of Education, on behalf of the entire Warren community, does hereby extend its sincere thanks and gratitude to Ms. Amberkar for her service to the children of Warren, and does hereby wish her all the best in all of her future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you.
Along with that, I want to make a motion. The Warren Township Board of Education Resolution of Appreciation. Whereas Mrs. Ayana Taylor Benson has served the children and community of Warren Township as a Board of Education member for 3 years, and whereas Mrs. Taylor Benson has served the board in many capacities, including memberships on the Personnel and Negotiations Committee, the Curriculum, Communications, and Technology Committee, and whereas during her tenure, Mrs. Taylor Benson further served the community as a member of both the Strategic Plan and the Return to School ad hoc committees, and whereas Mrs. Taylor Benson has held additional leadership positions, including chairperson of the Personnel and Negotiations Committee and the Curriculum, Communications, and Technology Committee. And whereas Mrs. Taylor Benson has established in the teaching staff, parent community, and administrative team a reputation of trustworthiness, fairness, and commitment to the district's high standards. And whereas Mrs. Taylor Benson has further supported the children of Warren through her commitment to diversity and equity. And whereas Mrs. Taylor Benson's passion for public education, dedication to excellence, continuous modeling of open-minded decision-making, and selflessness have contributed greatly to the Warren Township School District. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Warren Township Board of Education, on behalf of the entire Warren community, does hereby extend its sincere thanks and gratitude to Ms. Ayana Benson Taylor for her years of service to the children of Warren, and does hereby wish her all the best in her future endeavors.
Yay. Thank you. I did want to say, thank you. This year, like Matt said, has been really difficult. And I want to thank the parents and the students, especially who, shared all of their ideas with us and pushed us to create a plan that has allowed us to stay in school and been really successful this year. And to thank Dr. Mingle and Mrs. Leonard for your incredible leadership. I use you all as an example all of the time when I'm talking to people about how to manage a board or how to run a school district really well, because I feel like we do a really good job at that. And to my fellow board members, thank you so much for all of your support and your kindness, and to all of my committee buddies that I've had over the years. Thank you for those phone calls. And to David and Chris for your leadership of the board while I've been on there, and just for all of you for being really thoughtful and caring and generous people. And I feel really comfortable having my son in the school district, knowing you all are leading it. So thank you.
If I may. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce the following Warren Township of Education Resolution of Appreciation. Whereas Mr. Christian Bellman has served the children and community of Warren Township as a Board of Education member for 3 years. And whereas Mr. Bellman has served the board in many capacities, including a term as the board's delegate to the New Jersey School Boards Association and membership on the Finance, Operations, and Security Committee. And whereas during his tenure, Mr. Bellman further served the community as a member of both the Strategic Plan and the Return to School ad hoc committees. And whereas Mr. Bellman has held additional leadership positions, including board president and chairperson of the Finance, Operations, and Security Committee. And whereas Mr. Bellman has established in the teaching staff, parent community, and administrative team, a reputation of trustworthiness, fairness, and commitment to the district's high standards. And whereas Mr. Bellman has further supported the children of Warren through additional volunteer work beyond the Board of Education, including service with the Warren Cub Scout Troop Pack 182. And whereas Mr. Bellman's passion for public education, dedication to excellence, continuous modeling of open-minded decision-making, and selflessness have contributed greatly to the Warren Township School District. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Warren Township Board of Education, on behalf of the entire Warren community, does hereby extend its sincere thanks and gratitude to Mr. Christian Bellman for his years of service to the children of Warren, and does hereby wish him all the best in his future endeavors.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you. I couldn't have done it without you. And absolutely, Ted Leonard, Dr. Matt Mingle, thank you for your leadership and for all the motivation, answering all the questions day and night that I had to ensure that I, as a president, we as a board can be successful. Thank you. With that, I want to hand it over to Dr. Mingle for the Governor's Educator of the Year recipients.
Thank you, Mr. Bellman. We have a short little video here to recognize and announce our recipients. I do also want to share with everyone that we will do our normal big celebration later in the school year, but we wanted to get the information out as soon as it was announced. And thank you to Mr. Bellman and Mrs. Zahn, who helped with delivering flowers to the recipients in 2 different visits last week. 1 second. It is my pleasure to announce several awards received by our staff members for the 2020-21 school year. First, the Governor's Educator of the Year Awards. The New Jersey Teacher of the Year program and the Governor's Teacher Educational Services Professionals Recognition Program have been integrated into the Governor's Educator of the Year program. This updated program highlights educational innovation, student achievement, the rewards of teaching, and important services outside the classroom environment that lead to student success. Further, it seeks to attract public attention to the positive aspects of our educational system. This program replaced the district's Excellence in Education program for the 2020-2021 school year. At Angelo L. Tomaso School, the Educational Services Professional of the Year is Elizabeth Bisson, paraprofessional, and the classroom teacher is Brittany Leonard, special education teacher. At Central School, the ESP Award goes to Alyssa Petch, school counselor, and the Classroom Teacher Award to Patsy Iannacone, kindergarten teacher. At Mount Horeb School, the ESP Award goes to Doris Zanchelli, school nurse, and the Classroom Teacher Award to Christina Trump, grade 5 teacher. At Woodland School, the ESP Award goes to Alexandra Pranzo, school counselor, and the Classroom Teacher Award to Susan Leonard, grade 2 teacher. And at Warren Middle School, the ESP Award goes to Linda Yu, a learning disabilities teacher consultant, and the Classroom Teacher Award to Jeannie Pang, Mandarin and math teacher. In addition to the Educator of the Year awards, this year we are also proud to present Exemplary Educator Recognition Program Award recipients. Each year, the New Jersey Department of Education invites public school districts to participate in the Exemplary Educator Recognition Program. The goal of this program is to identify outstanding educators for special recognition, alternating between elementary and secondary every year. Each district is permitted to nominate 3 individuals. In March, the leadership team selected 3 recent Excellence in Education recipients who best met the qualifications of this program. Exemplary educators exhibit strong knowledge and skills, an inspiring presence, and a positive impact on students, colleagues, and the school community. The nominee must also have a rating of effective or highly effective on his or her most recent final summative evaluation. I'm extraordinarily proud to announce that of the 3 Warren Township nominees, all 3 were selected as recipients of the state's Excellence Recognition Program. It's especially important to note that they are 3 of just 93 educators across the entire state of New Jersey chosen for this additional honor. Julie Jagiello, Central School Special Education teacher, Amanda McGrath, Woodland School grade 3 teacher and librarian, and Mark Weber, Central and Mount Horeb Schools instrumental music teacher. Congratulations to all 3 and to all of our award recipients who are closing out the 2020 calendar year and will be our recognized individuals throughout the 2021 school year. Much more to come on how we will celebrate them in the future. Congratulations, one and all. I know several of those recipients are on the call, so congratulations again. We look forward to continuing to celebrate you and more to come. Mr. Bowman.
Thank you. From me, once again, congratulations. It was really great seeing you all on Monday, and for Ms. Zahn, seeing you on Friday and handing out these awards. Well earned. With that, I will come to agenda item 9, discussion. Is there any item for discussion from what we have discussed so far or seen so far? Seeing none, moving on to item 10, committee reports. Do we have any? Mrs. Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, so the curriculum committee met this evening and we discussed the gifted and talented policy that you all had asked us to discuss, and there will be a revised policy for you all to review in January. And Mr. Kimmick shared a more detailed tracking data form from iReady comparing 2019 to 2020 that you all will be able to see in the curriculum committee meeting minutes that you'll get. And then we also discussed ways to address 2 of our committee goals, some strategies of how the curriculum committee might approach that in the new board. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taylor. Any other committee? Dr. Mingle, please go. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Breezy, please go ahead first.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Bellman. The Finance Operations Security Committee met on Monday, November 23rd, 2020. Our list of topics that we discussed included 5 carryover follow-up items from previous meetings, those being pending legislation, two articles of pending legislation. One of those would allow districts to carry 4% rather than the current 2% for undesignated fund balances at the time that had passed in the Senate and was awaiting the General Assembly at the state level. The other pending legislation item is awaiting the governor's signature, and that relates to extending the 2019-2020 audit deadline from its normal December month to February. An additional item that was discussed briefly was traffic beacons. This we've discussed before. In summary, we are it's in the hands of the county and the vendors that they're working with, their installer of the timeline for that. The middle school paving project, administration recommended to use add alternates to the bids to give the board some flexibility in the traditional bid that would go out, as well as some options to add on related to, I think it was line painting and safety in the parking lot. Central School Security Vestibule, was finalizing plans for the grant submission. The Central School Slate Roof project, quick status update, the bid is scheduled to open on January 15th. It's in its very early stages. Additional topic we talked about was the potential referendum projects. Our administration has begun meeting with the architect for project reviews of those. The budget status, budget of 21-22 status, although that seems far away, is well underway. No surprise there. And the committee also discussed food service support, and I want to extend my thanks to Mrs. Leonard again for her working with the powers that be to be able to shift funds around to help our community members in need. So thank you very much for that, Pat. And that was it. Our next meeting of the Finance Committee is December 21st, 2020. Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Breezy. Now moving on to Dr. Mingle.
I can be very brief. We had an ad hoc return to school committee meeting. Most of that was presented in the presentation at the top of the meeting. We talked about the progress on hybrid 1.2 planning, and then a whole list of administrative actions that the community has already seen, the process for changing models, the protocols we have in place for case tracking, the new case tracker graphic that's up on the website, and other efforts like that. So the committee will meet again once the board reorg takes place in January.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mingle. I do not think that, Mr. Breezy, please go ahead.
Apologize, I have one more. So the New Jersey School Board Delegate Assembly met on Saturday, November 21st. They had one item on the agenda. It was from Lodi District in Bergen County. The original resolution seeks to propose a new policy language supporting the requirement that a board member with a term of office extending beyond the next election must resign the seat currently held before submitting a nomination petition to stand as a candidate for a seat different than the seat currently held by the member. It was one item. I will say it was a very interesting discussion. I learned a lot by listening. Ultimately, there was quite a few, at least half a dozen changes to language going back and forth to try to capture the spirit of this without limiting, people running for office or dissuading them. Ultimately, it did pass. I don't have the final tally, but it was, I think, 147 to a handful not. So the spirit of what I read was captured, all that was not the final wording of it. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Breezy. I do not think we have any other committee reports. With that, I will move to agenda. Oh, Ms. DiMaggio, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
I don't have a committee report. However, I was supposed to attend that NJSBA Delegate Assembly, and Mr. Brzee kindly substituted in for me. I was unable to attend. So I want to thank him, Mr. Brzee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Breezy, for filling in. Now, any other committee reports? Now I really assume there's none. With that, I will move on to agenda item 11, public commentary. We ask you to be brief and respectful with your comments and appreciate that among many voices, there will be areas of agreement and disagreement among reasonable people. But in this time that is so stressful for our children and us all, we need to practice and model good listening and kindness, the skills we so value our own teachers for. I remind you that board policy allows for public commentary for 3 minutes per participant and for 15 minutes in total. At such time, the board must then authorize an additional increment of 15 minutes as per our policy. All speakers have to provide their name and address and turn on their camera. In this first section of public comment, we are limited to comments on agenda items. I also want to remind you that these meetings are recorded. To participate, please click on the participants button on the bottom and then use the raise hand feature of Zoom. We'll go by the order of the list built into Zoom. As of now, I do not see any raised hand. I'll wait another 30 seconds. If there's anybody that wants to participate that has problems with raised hand, please just unmute yourself. Seeing none, with that, I will close the public commentary section and move on to agenda item 12, items for board consideration action. But before we make the motion, is there any agenda item that anybody wants to pull out, either for a separate discussion or a separate vote? I see Mr. Breezy first and then Dr. Mingle. Mr. Breezy, please go ahead.
I just wanted to pull A2 and B10 both for separate vote. I just wish to abstain from both of those.
For B2 and B10. And Dr. Mingle, please.
I just wanted to make sure, because we sent an email late before the meeting, that the final agenda, that is the active agenda, does not have any bold names under C2. So there are 3 names under C2 as substitute teachers. That's the agenda that the board is voting on. Thank you.
Any other items for discussion or a separate vote? Mr. Bishi, please go ahead.
Just very quickly, I just appreciate the diversity of the new hires that I noticed. Dr. Mingle, I know the board's, mentioned that to you before, so that's good to see. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bishi. Any other item? I'm seeing none. Was that Mrs. San? Could you please?
Yes, thank you. Motion to approve items for board consideration, section 12, items A1, A3 and 4, B1 through B9, B11 through B13, C1 through C8.
Second.
And the second was from Mr. Franco. Thank you. Ms. Amber Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Balish,
Yes.
Mr. Bishi,
Yes.
Mr. Brzee,
Yes.
Mrs. DiMaggio,
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Taylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Zahn,
Yes.
and Mr. Bellman.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Motion to approve items for board consideration, section 12, item A2.
Um,
Do we want to do those both separately, A2 and B10, or individual?
It doesn't matter. Yes, we can do them separate.
Separately.
Do I have a second?
Second, Bellman.
Thank you. Ms. Ambikar,
Abstain.
Mr. Balish,
Yes.
Mr. Bishi,
Yes.
Mr. Brzee,
Abstain.
Mrs. DiMaggio,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Zahn,
Yes.
and Mr. Bellman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve item for board consideration, section 12, item B10.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Ambikar,
Yes.
Mr. Balish,
Yes.
Mr. Bishi,
Yes.
Mr. Brzee,
Abstain.
Mrs. DiMaggio,
Yes, with gratitude.
Mhm.
Mr. Franco,
I echo that. The gratitude cannot be expressed enough. Thank you and yes.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes. Same.
Mrs. Zahn,
Yes.
and Mr. Bellman.
Yes. Same.
With gratitude, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. With that, scrolling down in the agenda, unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Any board member, anything that we still have to discuss from previous meetings? With that, I will move to new business. I have received an email that one of the board members wants to bring up an item for new business. However, there was some discussion already in today's meeting. Anything for new business? Mrs. Amberkar, please go ahead.
Okay. I will just give a brief about this. Basically, the PTO used to, there are some children in our school district.
I have a problem hearing her. Mrs. Amberkar, it seems that you're somehow muted or so. We don't hear any sound from you. Right now, I don't have any sound from you, sorry.
It was there for a few seconds and then we lost her. So
Yeah, I had the same.
we can see you, but we cannot hear you.
I definitely want to hear the new business, but while Ms. Amberkar is working on her audio, is there any other new business item any other board member wants to bring up, discuss? Let's wait for her to rejoin. I can see that Ms. Amberkar joined back. She's still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Ms. Amberkar, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. So I'll restart. There are some children in our school district which are eligible for subsidized free lunches. And the PTO used to provide for them through food days. But since the food days stopped, there were some other organizations, including generous support of Mr. Brzee. They supported this cause And the district has established funding source till 2020, end of the school year. My worry is what happens after the summer of 2021. In case the food days doesn't restart due to COVID or some precautionary measures, health reasons, and food days doesn't start, then what do? We don't have, as of what I know, we don't have a plan for that. And I would like the board to look into that because it was a struggle from what I know to try to provide for these children. So that's something which I would like to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amberkar. Any other item for new business or comment? With that, I will close the new business item section and move on to public commentary, any topic. If you want to participate, the same rules apply. There's a 3-minute limit. Please state your name and address and turn on your camera. Please use the raise your hand feature on the bottom. Click on participants and click on raise hand if you want to participate. Right now, I'm seeing none. Otherwise, if you want to participate and haven't found the setting, just unmute yourself. Provide a comment. Mrs. Silver, please go ahead. You're still muted. Mrs. Silver, you're still muted.
Sorry, I didn't plan on speaking. I just thought of it this second, but Mrs. Taylor and Mr. Bellman, I have sat and watched you guys for many, many years and appreciated the time and consideration and everything that you have put into our district. You deserve commendation for the years and the hours and the nights and the days and everything you've put in. Thank you so much. Whatever you've passed on to the new members, Godspeed for them. And I hope the existing board members are ready to welcome them in and make sure that they kind of fold them into this family that we're all used to looking at. So have a wonderful holiday season, both of you. I wish you both the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And always appreciated your chocolates, Mrs. Silver.
Yep, when we were still in person. Otherwise, I don't see any other wish to. Ms. DiMaggio, wow, as a member of the public, Ms. DiMaggio, please go ahead.
Lisa DiMaggio, Sawmill Road in Warren. I would like to talk a little bit about Mrs. Ronkowitz, the art teacher that my daughter started the cycle class. She makes me feel very, very insignificant as a teacher, as I'm also a high school teacher doing a lot of Zooming. I commend her. I know she's the art teacher, so she's very creative. Her little Bitmoji classroom, her videos are embedded. She's so funny. She's sarcastic. God bless her and whatever she's doing. We look forward to the cycle class. We all watch it as a family. It's so entertaining. And just God bless her and keep doing what she's doing. And I just had to commend her.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Any other public comment? Otherwise, I will close that section of the agenda in 10 seconds. With that, I'm making a motion to adjourn. Or Ms. San, could you please make the motion to adjourn?
Mr. Bellman, for our last time, thank you for letting me do this. Godspeed. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Board members?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Wishing each and every one of you a wonderful holiday season.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.